Nobody does it better than us.
That is totally, totally true. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Designated Players and MLS podcast. We're in the middle of round one, and there's going to be quite a while until that is finished. And we don't want to just keep talking about, like, oh, this game, that game, this game. So we're spicing it up a little bit. There was a conversation on Twitter or X, depending on if you're cool or not, about what was the best MLS export ever. Some people are saying it's Taty Castellanos. Some people are saying Alphonso Davies. John Duran's name is tossed in there. But we've had a lot of people leave for a lot of good money over the last couple of years, and it's time for us to take a look and see who could fit the title of best MLS export ever. Now, this is going to be tough because a lot of them have left within the last year or couple of months, and it will be tough to judge them completely. But myself and my friend Connor, how you doing?
Dandy.
Just dandy. Well, we're going to sit here and try and make him undandy because we're going to sit here and argue a little bit over which player has left with the title of best MLS export. So it's going to be in a tier list, as you guys can see. We are going to cover the moves and the careers, and did these players take a step up, a step down? We're going to do it all. All right, so we, as you guys can see on the tier list, we've got our 5 tiers. We've got the GOAT tier, great, good, disappointing, and just flat out garbage. So we are going to take these 15 players and list them roughly between those five. My guess is we'll probably make a bell curve because that's what we do. Um, and we're just going to go out and see if that makes sense. If we can fit these top 15 players into those rankings. So what do you think, Connor? Do you want to start with 15? Do you want to start with one, or do you want to start with Scarf of the Week?
The correct answer is Scarf of the Week.
Good job. Look at you.
No questions on which scarf I'm bringing out today. You've already, I'm sure, figured out who my bias is for, and we'll talk more about it later. I don't want to give away too much right now, but I
I
have plenty of thoughts to share later.
I raise you Vancouver 86ers.
Okay, well, irrelevant. No players from that team are on here.
That's what you think.
It's what I know.
You don't know anything. Let's be real here.
I mean, based off last episode, I think that's probably true.
Yeah. So here's the way I think we do this. If you've played there more than a year, so if you've left for more than a year, you can get a rate, you can get a judgment on your time overseas already. And if you've just left, for example, Caleb Wiley or Andres Gomez or whatever, maybe we then do a prediction like you were talking about before, and we kind of predict if it'll be uh, a good move or if they'll pan out, something like that.
I'm good with that.
All right. Well, I think we do start at 16 instead of one, and we work our way up in terms of expensive transfers. The 15th most expensive outgoing transfer, Giorgios Giakoumakis, coming in from Celtic in February of 2023 for $4 million and then being flipped just about a year later for almost $10 million flat. He's gone from Europe to America, now to Liga MX. Connor, which tier would you rank your former striker, Giorgios Giakoumakis, in terms of outgoing export?
Yes, this will be a good one for us to kind of figure out how we want to go about this. Because I guess there's two parts here, right? Like, do I think he'll be successful there? Yes. I think he's already shown that he's going to be successful there. When he's healthy, he is a phenomenal striker. How much of an impact is that going to have on the league as a whole, like MLS? Not much. I mean, like going to League MX isn't going to exactly like open up more eyes to players coming out of Major League Soccer. I'd say that probably the biggest benefit to the league of this move is the fact that it gives Atlanta a bunch more money to spend because as hit or miss as they've been, they have brought in a number of big talents that have been able to get a lot of notoriety for the league. Um, So there's the potential for them to kind of recycle that money into somebody who could do that again this time around. I think I'm leaning towards a good because I don't think the impact of the move is going to be huge, but I do think he'll be a good player in Liga MX.
I'm either good or disappointing, and there are a couple of reasons for that. So when I look at it, when he was here, he was great when he was here, right? The fee that he commanded was obviously strong, and the profit that they made was good. But I'm disappointed in his. So this might be a personal thing, but I'm disappointed in his move to Mexico because I'm not thrilled with us sending people to Mexico. And we've had this conversation before about, oh, is it should we be sending our best players to Mexico, right? But I would agree that if we're talking about his impact on the league, what it shows is, okay, you can come in from Europe, get yourself a big payday, perform well, and make a move for good money. All of that combined, regardless of where you go, I think is good. I think it's a good start, and I think that is I think it's a good tier for him. Yeah, let's leave it at that and move on.
We could always shift it later.
Yep.
Make sure we have our bell curve.
Yes. Yeah. If we don't have a bell curve, what's the point, right? Next up, in 14th for 10 million euros, it is former FC Cincinnati striker Brenner, but he's been with Udinese for a while, since July 2023. In 16 appearances for them, 17, including one in a cup. He's got 2 goals, 2 assists. When he was here, he was pretty good. He wasn't phenomenal. He had 26 goals and 50 or 27 goals and 73 appearances round all around. I'm going to go disappointing here, and it's for a couple of reasons. Firstly, for him to come in at this very moment of recording, he is the fifth most expensive incoming transfer. He shows up, he plays all right, right? 2021, 8 goals and 33 appearances. 2022, 18 goals and 29 appearances. He got better as he got to the end. And then in 2023, he had 1 goal and 8 appearances before moving to the Serie A. He moves to the Serie A. They lost money on the move with expectation that he'll hit some sort of level to get that money back. And now he's got 2 goals in 12 appearances since the season started. Something like that. 17 appearances, sorry. Like when you buy somebody for that much money, sell him for a loss, they in his time here, they picked up one supporter shield with him. Just kidding, he didn't even get the supporter shield. He was gone before they got it. So he won you no trophies. You sold him for a loss. He got you into a playoffs. That's it. And then he goes into Italy and he does not so great. This is a disappointing one for me.
I'm tempted to make the argument for garbage. I don't know if you'd
I've
hear it out.
I will hear it out, but I've got special places for that, and we can't overload it if we want our bell curve. So
Okay, okay. If you had an idea of like someone to go there already,
I've got a
that's fine.
couple. Yeah, I've got a couple.
I'm fine putting him in disappointing. I think the biggest thing is the fact that they took a loss on it on the deal. Like, how if you're FCC and they have done very, very good business, at least in terms of bringing in people. I don't know about selling on, but you had a 22-year-old Brazilian striker coming off a 25 goal contribution season where he helped turn your team around from being a dumpster fire for the last 3 years. And you sold him on for a loss? I understand you paid a big fee, so the bar was going to be high. How do you sell him on for a loss? I don't understand that. And maybe they got forced into it because he just straight up told them like, "Hey, like I want out. Like I'm not gonna play unless you sell me." In which case, maybe they got the best that they could out of it. But it still is super disappointing to see someone who had a lot of potential and came off a really strong year go for less money than you bought him for. And then for him to not only do that, but then go to this team and just not even play at all is also super disappointing because it's not even bringing any new eyes over to the team. Nobody's looking at Brenner and being like, damn, I wonder where he started. Where did he come from? Because nobody probably even knows he exists. So I'm
Yep.
fine with disappointing or garbage for this one.
I'm going to keep him at disappointing. I think that is the right spot for him. Because I've got a couple of other ones that I can put into garbage.
Okay.
Okay. Gabby Pereira, the former NYCFC man, moving to Qatari's Al Rayyan SC for 10 million as well. Brought in for 5 million in 2022, flipped for 10 million in 2023. Just reading up on some of the moves there. When he was in New York City, he had 8 goals in 26 appearances. He had 6 goals in 22 appearances. He was only here for 2 seasons. He didn't break more than 3,000 minutes in those 2 seasons. He didn't break more than 3,000 minutes in those 22 seasons. He then goes over to the Qatari League and has not hit double-digit goals for Al Rayyan yet. He does have 20 assists, though. He had 10 assists in the first season he was there, and then has added on a couple more since. I'll let you go first here. I'll let you go first.
So I guess this is kind of again in two parts, but a little bit different than Giakoumakis. So obviously, moving over to the Qatar League is going to bring zero. It may bring negative eyes onto the league. So it really has no impact on a league-wide perspective. But what I will say in the defense of this move from NYC's perspective, they had no business getting this amount of money for Pereira. No business whatsoever. They absolutely cashed in on a player who was, I guess, good at best for NYC, and doubled the amount of money they paid to bring him in. So I will kind of, we can go back and forth on what we think here, because I'm not too sure where to put him depending on what you weigh more. It doesn't, from a league perspective, it's probably garbage, right? But from an NYC perspective, it's probably good. So maybe it middles out for disappointing to me, but I want to know what you think.
Yeah, I'm right on disappointing here. I think the moving factor for me is the fact that a club got $10 million for a guy who I remember at the time when he made that move, we were like, they got $10 million for a guy who's played 2,800 minutes and scored 14 times. Like, that's criminal. And again, you're right. The move to a Qatari team is not going to be influential or, label somebody as a best export, right? And that's not us being Euro snobs. That's us being realistic, right? The bar is set relatively high for stuff like that. And yeah, it's definitely not a bar moving. It doesn't set a new bar for exports in a season. But I would say the fact that New York City were able to swindle an extra 5 mil out of this move, that's that's enough for disappointing for me.
Yeah.
A very, very recent one, another 10 million euro move. It's Carlos Andres Gomez moving from Real Salt Lake this summer transfer window to Stade Rennais in France's Ligue 1. The move here, I remember we were very, very excited for it because it was well deserved, right? Gomez, even to this point of speaking, is RSL's second leading goal scorer this season. He hasn't played for what 2 months, and even in Ligue 1, he's already got his first goal. Coming over from Colombia, a place that produces a ton of talent, but usually finds it difficult for them to break in early to European leagues, I think is a really, really good litmus test of like, ooh, maybe I can make it over there. The value is great, very, very happy for the value. Um, oh, and that goal was a game-winning goal too. Would you look at that? I think the move shows good value. I think RSL cashed in great for Gomez here, and I would put this because it's so early. I'm going to put it as a good move. I just looked at his numbers here. He did score this game-winning goal against Le Arve, but in the five, one, two, three other games he's played so far, 2 losses and a draw, and no goal contributions. So I'm going to put it as good for now. And I don't know how impactful he will be. One of the other things I will say as well is like, I think that there's a higher bar for homegrowns coming out and moving over than us buying from somewhere because it'll be like, oh, where'd this guy come from? Carlos Andres Gomez. Oh, he came from Millonarios. Millonarios is producing talent, right? This isn't RSL produced talent. This is RSL found, developed, and sold on talent. So for that, I have it a little bit lower.
Yeah, I'm on board with good. I think, like you said, they cashed in at the right time and they cashed in pretty well for him. My only concern is how much game time he's actually going to get for a team that's currently mid-table in the French league, where I feel like it's definitely not the same as like it like I don't want to be an England snob, but like reality is if he's replicating these stats for the 11th place team in England, tons of more eyes on it than if he's doing it for the 11th place French team.
Oh, good. Now I got to deal with the Stade Rennais fans calling you an idiot in my mentions. Well, this is actually really interesting, right? So I'm looking at this Stade Rennais like team. It is completely revamped. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 new players. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. 15 of their 28 players were brought in just now, which I think is insane.
That's a
That
lot of
is a
turnover.
ton of turnover. And some of them are on loan, but for the most part, they are going out and spending money and big money too, right? 15 mil for a center mid, 10 mil for a center back, 10 mil for a center mid, 10 mil for Gomez, 8 mil for Jota on the left wing. Like this is a significant investment. So I think that there is every opportunity for him to earn his spot. And again, if he continues to play it the way we've seen him play, I think it'll be possible that he could do that. Now, that's still left to be desired. But again, I think the big one for me is if he does break out, it's going to be for us, it's going to be like, oh yeah, look, one of our guys is doing really well. For everybody else, it's going to be, oh, me and Ariel made this guy, right?
Yep, don't disagree.
All right. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. We're talking about Esequiel Boatman Barco. Other players have come in for a good bit of money, but none more than Esequiel Barco. Two more than Esequiel Barco. But Esequiel Barco is the third most expensive player brought into MLS since they started spending money. Brought in the 2018 season for $12.28 million. He leaves being sold at a loss, a small loss, but a loss. And after having won MLS Cup, I mean, vaguely MLS Cup and US Open Cup and Campeones Cup, he was sold on to River Plate, who then sold him on to Spartak Moscow, funny enough. When he was with Atlanta, 107 games, 19 goals, 18 assists for a guy who cost 8 figures and you sold for a loss. Connor, I usually would let you go first here, but I have to jump in and let you know that this is my first garbage player. He came from Independiente in Argentina with this just dream of making it to Europe, being the guy that we're going to spend money and sell him for 30 mil, and this is how it's going to be. This is the new era of MLS. And then they not only do they sell him for a loss, they sell him back to Argentina for them to sell him for a profit to Russia. Now, Russia and America, of course, that move was never going to happen. But the fact that they brought him in and he didn't even hit as an attacking player in that system, double-digit goals once in a season, that's garbage to me.
I want to argue against you. I really do.
Do it.
No, I don't think I can. I don't think I can. I mean, I still remember how much hype there was around this guy when he first came in. It was insane. I don't think I've ever seen more hype for a player in MLS ever than when he was coming in. And then he was so disappointing.
And
He was,
like brutally disappointing. Like extremely
I don't know if I'd say
disappointing.
brutally disappointing, but he was disappointing.
Hold on. So he played 107 games and scored 19 goals. Our Lord and Savior, you know who I'm talking about,
I have no idea.
Thomas K. Barlow, 140 games, 18 goals. He barely has a better goals to game ratio than Thomas Barlow.
Okay, one of them is a winger, one of them is a striker.
In this Atlanta team that is just supposed to be built on magical attack, Miguel Almiron was the same way. I mean, he played in the same role and he was fantastic.
No, they played different roles.
Did they?
Miggy was central.
No, I
Barco
think
was a
he I
winger.
think he I think he played out wide and sunk inside. I might be wrong there. Doesn't
I
matter.
so first 2 years or first I guess 3 years Barco. Yeah, he was very, very disappointing. I think his last year was solid in 2021.
Well,
And
7 goals.
hey, 7 goals, 6 assists, not counting second assist. Um, from the wing. I don't think that's that like I'm not saying he was a world beater. And I'm not even saying that he like made like lived up to the hype from that season, but I would say that was a solid season. But
Yeah,
still,
but
again,
I'm not.
he was well below the expectations.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
not
not.
disagreeing. I'm fine with putting it in garbage.
That's fine. Yeah, I'm not letting him have one good season in 4 years save him from this tier, and then not being moved on properly. Right.
I mean,
That
technically they did. So they had a $4 million loan fee for him as well. So technically they did make more money back from him.
actually,
Yeah, I will.
actually,
Actually, they did have him sell him for a profit. He's been, by the way, he's been tearing it up in Russia.
yeah, I know. I saw that too. 10 goal
Very
contributions
weird.
in 1,000 minutes.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, no, this is garbage for me. I'm not having it. And again, some people just don't do well here. So next up is somebody who was sold for $10.1 million or euros. So just a little bit better than everybody else. It's the 10th most expensive outgoing transfer. It is Caleb Wiley from Atlanta to Chelsea. Connor's wet dream. Just a complete pipeline from MLS to his European side. Could not get any better. Talk to me about what you think about this move.
So obviously we're gonna have to go with prediction on this one because it just happened. As much as I want this to work out, and I really, really do, I think it's gonna be at best good. And at best. Not because I don't think Wiley's good enough of a player, but because I know the Chelsea track record. And I know that he will probably never see the field for this team. And they maybe will sell him on for marginal profit to some random European team. Or maybe then he can pan things out. But I don't want to bet against him because I think he's a good player and he's super young. So I definitely am not going to say garbage as much as I think the Chelsea move is not going to pan out. But I'm between disappointing and good. I'm gonna go with good just because I'm gonna bet on Wiley being a good player still. I think he can maybe pan out somewhere else in Europe, even if that's through like Strasbourg, where he is right now.
Yeah, I'm going to go good because I think in a window where Atlanta were just trying to recoup as much as they could, getting 10 million for a guy who is what he's played 2 years for Atlanta as a teenager, right? Good, sell high, reinvest. I think it's good there, but I could not agree with you more about this Chelsea track record. I mean, I can't remember who was trying to have that conversation with me. I think it was Mo from Mo Football, and he was like, "Oh, that doesn't happen anymore. Like, Chelsea's loan army's gone. Blah 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 blah." And I was just like, "I'm sorry, I'm not dealing with this." Because if you look at the last couple of Americans they've had, Christian Pulisic, who had to play right wing back to get on the field, Matt Miazga, who never played like more than 2 minutes for that team, and now Caleb Wiley, who still is not going, likely never going to touch the field for that team. I don't love it, and we know how difficult it is to go on loan every other year just to get game time. It's not an easy transition, and we're not, once Robinson goes down, our left back is relatively thin. So for the national team, I don't love it. So yeah, I'll go with good just because I think the money that was brought in was a solid amount, but I'm not thrilled with the location, and low key, I hope he gets moved out quickly where he can just settle. Like, I don't even care where it is. You want to go to France? Fine. You want to go to Belgium, Spain, whatever? Don't care. but I'm not. I don't think this is his spot.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. And by the way, the Chelsea loan army is still alive and well. There's like
Yeah,
15 players out on loan right now.
yeah, and one of them is we're going to talk about him in a little bit. Actually, we just talked about one, and we'll talk about another one in a little bit. And there was another one who just missed out. Actually, funny enough, he was number 16. Gaga Slanino was,
True.
who is tearing it up at Barnsley, which means that he should instantly be the USMNT number one.
I mean, they've been calling it Zach Steffen, so the bar's pretty low.
Well, let's go into the top 10, starting with the number 9, Brendan Aaronson, 12.7 million euros, moving from the Philadelphia Union over to Leeds. Well, actually went to RB Salzburg first and then got sold for a massive 32.84 million euros from Salzburg to Leeds. In case you didn't need to know that our friends in England have way too much money and don't know what to do with it. They bought Brendan Aaronson for over $30 million, which I imagine has to have him in like the top 3 most expensive transfers of all time, right?
Like
For
Leeds transfers
Americans,
of all
for
time?
no, for
Oh, Americans.
Americans, I
Yeah,
imagine. And by the way, that was after he had 13 goals and 15 assists in 66 games for Salzburg as an attacking midfielder. What's wrong with the football market? I don't know. Um, when he went to Leeds, he was unimpressive. He then got loaned to Union Berlin, which he was unimpressive. He's now gotten into a better run of form with Leeds. 3 goals, 1 assist, and 900 minutes in the championship so far. Your is it your thoughts or my thoughts?
I don't care. Somebody's thoughts.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think this might be a controversial call here for me, but I'm gonna say great because
Wow, that is controversial.
I think the impact for the league from his move is huge because he moved for a good fee to begin with to Salzburg. And then, like you said, he had that secondary move to Leeds for a huge amount of money. And like he was playing often for a Premier League team, which we just don't see a lot of. Like even guys that we're going to talk about in a bit who've made bigger money moves to the Prem probably played less consistently than he did. And obviously it didn't pan out, but they got relegated and he was in Germany and whatever. He's very messy, weird situation now. But when you think about Brendan Aronson, you know where he came from. The same way you were talking about Carlos Gomez, about you look at him and you say, okay, that's a millionaires product. You look at Brendan Aronson, you know he's an MLS product. He is from the US. I think you know where Pulisic comes from ahead of time, and you know it's not MLS. Brendan Aronson, I think you know is from MLS. So I think it would be a very, very low, like bottom of great. But I just think the impact it had on the league is big. I would be open to putting him in good, but I don't think his performances have been great. But I think his impact for the league has been very big.
I was gonna put him in disappointing. So,
Disappointing? Oh no, I can
well,
settle
here
on good,
I
but
and
I'm
I
not
can
going to be
settle on
disappointed.
I can settle on good as well. But the reason I had him at disappointing was if you watch any men's national team game, and we've talked about it too, the first thing that's ever mentioned is if somebody does well, oh, this is why they can't be there. And Brendan Aronson all the time, I'm like, oh, and we talked about it too when they were calling players in for Gold Cup or Nations League or whatever. It's like if we're complaining about people who don't deserve to be there, Brendan Aronson probably didn't deserve to be there. And then when he got on, he wasn't good. So I think it hurt the impact of the league overall. Now, that may be recency bias, right? Maybe when he went originally, that there was a bit more of hype, sure. But he also went directly to Salzburg before he went to Leeds. And I think that didn't garner as much hype, if that makes sense. Right? Like, oh, he's just going to Austria. Sure, he's scoring 5 goals and 5 assists in Austria, but it's just Austria, right? And then he went to England and he was average and got relegated. And then he went to the championship and he couldn't make it in the championship. He got sent out on loan to the Bundesliga. And when he didn't do that, now he's back in the championship doing a bit well. So
But
I'll
what
be
I
okay. Go ahead.
sorry.
Go
No,
ahead.
what I will say though, and I'm still fine in putting it in good because I think his performances have been poor, is remember like how much people were talking about, America leads, like the American trio at leads with Jesse
Yep.
Marsh in charge. Like so many more eyes were on these players. And I think that had to have at least put some people to kind of follow where they like went before that point. And I think it's the same, like again, I think it's the same thing with the Carlos Gomez thing. Even though Brendan Aronson came from Salzburg, I don't think anybody, because he's American and he plays for the US national team, is going to be remembering him as a Salzburg product. I think they're going to remember him as a MLS product. So I do think that has at least like a good impact on the league, as opposed to even though his performances weren't good enough.
Do we, well, and that's the thing. They're going to remember as an MLS product. And if his performances are poor, then it's a bad reflection instead of a good reflection. You know what I mean?
All eyes are good eyes.
That's not true. Um, I will put him in good.
Okay,
I can meet
we'll
in the
compromise
middle.
on good.
Yep. And now I think we go to one that's relatively easy. The next addition to the garbage tier, $14 million to Bayern Munich, Alphonso Davies. Never heard of him. Don't know why he spent that much money.
Clearly, you've
No,
never heard of him. I told you his nickname, and you had no idea who I was talking about.
that's his nickname.
Yeah, because he's super fast, so they call him they
They call him
oh meat
Roadrunner.
meat. Yeah,
I like it. I think it's clever. Like that's a fun nickname. I
it is.
would,
It's a really good nickname.
yeah. I can imagine playing, just asking for the ball. Meet me. No, I think this one's, and this is where the argument came from, right? Originally, it was Taty Castellanos was the best export because nobody expected him to be where he was, and he went from being the second division in Argentina to now the Argentinian national team because of MLS, and his price skyrocketed and all this sort of stuff. Versus Davies, who came out of the Vancouver Academy as a uh, known product, and he was being scouted by the best teams in the world. Bayern got him, and he's won all these trophies, and but he expected him to be there while Taty wasn't expected. For me, I mean, I don't think anybody can disagree that Alphonso Davies is the best MLS export that has ever come through to this point. So youth youth academy guy, born in Ghana to refugees, comes over, tries out, makes a team, skyrockets through the academy to get his first appearance. Here's a fun fact for you. First appearance in the Champions League against the New York Red Bulls. I watched his first game live. It was unbelievable. This kid comes in and he literally he looks like he is just stick and bones. Like no meat on him whatsoever. And he is torching us. Like best player on the field by a wide margin. And this is 2016, 2017 Red Bull who had like a legitimate side. Sasha Kleshtin, Dax McCarty, like legitimate players. BWP, Robles, and he was torching us. And he comes in and is a first player born in 2000 to play in MLS, according to this nice Wikipedia article. Goes to Bayern in 2019, uh, Bundesliga Rookie of the Year, won the treble with the Champions League, Golden Boy finalist. I mean, the list goes on and on, guys. Like, yes, Taty Castellanos is doing so much right now. But Davies is the guy because there's no middleman. We didn't pick him from somewhere. We took him from our academy system and we put him on front of the world stage. It's Alphonso Davies in GOAT tier for me.
I want to make this as clear as possible for people. There's no discussion, zero whatsoever. Taty Castellanos is not even close to being in the same tier as Alphonso Davies. None of these people on this list are even close to being in a tier with Alphonso Davies. I will tell you now, I will spoil a little bit of the rest of my picks. I will not be putting anybody else in Alphonso Davies tier. He is a league of his own. He is a World 11. A World 11. If you're telling me that you think Taty Castellanos is anywhere near a World 11 player, you're out of your mind. And I want to know what drugs you're smoking. This
And
is
can you get some for us?
no, drugs are bad. This is without question the best export that this league has ever had. Not to mention, like you said, the fact that he came straight from the academy. Like Taty had another stop before he came here. Not only that, but Taty also benefited from a parent move to get to Europe. He went to a Man City affiliate before he moved to Lazio. So I feel like that diminishes it a little bit, right? Like I don't know if you disagree, but it's like you had a huge helping hand to get your move over to Europe. Not that he wasn't good enough to take the jump to Europe, but Alphonso Davies is he's far and away the best export that this league has ever had, and I don't think we may never see an export as good as Alphonso Davies has been. Like he made a move similar to Caleb Wiley, where I bet at first you're thinking, okay, he moved to Bayern, like he's not going to play for them. He has like 150 appearances for them now, and has won 5 Bundesliga titles, a Champions League, UEFA Team of the Year, World 11, like insane, insane. No question, this guy is he's GOAT tier. In my opinion, he is. There's nobody else that deserves to be on the same tier as him.
You know, couple things you said there, right? Like, yeah, he's got 5 Bundesliga titles, but like Farmers League, so that obviously knocks him down like 3 tiers. And
That's
then
so true.
you've got like, oh, we'll never see another one again. When USL implements ProRel and everybody's able to have academies that we can just pull from and get every single kid in America playing soccer, we will have 7 Alphonso Davies within the next 10 years. So you're out of your mind, unfortunately. And Alphonso Davies, like, he's all right
he'll
because in
be
the
he'll be in the disappointing tier within the next
yeah,
decade.
yeah, with it, yeah, exactly. Like you give it a couple years once ProRel gets here, and like it's over, bro. It's over.
Like you didn't win a Ballon d'Or, Alfonso Davies, you scrub.
A bum. I've got 5 Ballon d'Or winners sitting in my backyard right now in Carolina,
Yeah,
just
seriously.
waiting to be discovered. Um, no, I agree with you. I do think it's closer than you make it, but not like miles closer. I think Taty Castellanos can have a conversation. I think Miguel Almiron can have a conversation, but it's not a long one. It's not like this is not a long conversation. This is okay. They have some redeeming qualities, but then you hit the Alphonso Davies like career awards list, and you're like, okay, yeah, it's not close. Um, Now that's not to say Taty Castellanos cannot get to that level, but it
I'll say it.
is
He's not getting to that level. I'll
uh,
say it.
clip it for when he's got the Ballon d'Or in 5 years.
If Taty Castellanos wins a Ballon d'Or, I will never say a single thing about soccer for the rest of my life.
Is that all it takes? All right, I'm gonna call Don. Don's gonna call his friends in FIFA. We're gonna rig this thing up so I don't ever have to hear your bad takes again. Well, actually, you know what's funny enough? Next up is Taty Castellanos. So why don't we just continue this conversation, move it along? Taty Castellanos is in my great tier, and he is like the next guy up from GOAT or down from GOAT, whichever way you want to talk about it. Because I think that the success story is really, really, how do I say it? Like it is something that would be good to promote as a league, right? Oh, look, here's this guy playing in Uruguay and Chile who MLS took a flyer on when his value was 200K, and then go in and say, oh, they found a way to turn him into a $15 million signing who is now going to play for the national team. That's the story that we need to be telling and the players that we need to be finding, not the, oh, look, we're going to spend 15 or 12 or 10 million for Barco or 12 million for Barco, sell him for 10 and back to Argentina or whatever. This is the story we need more of. So I would put him in great because not only was he very good when he was here, regardless of all the dives and the garbage that he would go through. You know, he's got an MLS Cup, he's got a Mickey Mouse COVID Cup, of course, but he's got the Golden Boot in Mickey Mouse COVID year, right? He got Player of the Season that year as well. And then he moves on, he goes to Italy, and he is tearing it up with Lazio. I mean, just got off to a slow-ish start. 4 goals, 3 assists in 1,700 minutes. He's now got 8 goal contributions in less than 800 minutes. That's almost a goal contribution a game. Not to mention 2 goals and an assist in the Europa League. Like that performance for somebody who wasn't a known to be starter is something that I would say, yeah, absolutely is a you can tell me he might be the best ever, and I can listen to you and have that conversation. But it's not closer. It's not as close as you would think. So I have him in my great tier.
I want to say this first before I dive into my rant. I agree. I would have him on the great tier as well. That being said, no way, shape, or form am I having a conversation with anybody as to who is the best export. Like, it's not even close. Like, Taty, like you said, last year, not great numbers. 1,700 minutes. He had, what was it again? Like 7 goal contributions.
Yeah.
Not great at all.
Yeah.
This season, much better. I agree. But what I will say, and I'm probably being a little bit of a hater, one, super small sample size so far, off to a very good start. Two, the schedule for Lazio so far has been fairly easy. He has played AC Milan, where he did score, and Juventus, where he got shut out for 90 minutes. That's like all the top Italian teams he's played against so far.
How many top Italian teams are there? That's like
There's Roma, Napoli, Atalanta that he still hasn't
that's
played.
then you're gonna go out and say like, oh, Bayer, Alphonso Davies only played against like two of the top Bundesliga teams because
He
there are
won a
only
Champions
two.
League.
There
He
are
won a
only
Champions League.
two.
He literally he beat everybody.
Ridiculous.
And he won a Club World Cup. He has literally beat
The Club
everybody.
World Cup it means nothing until it comes to American soil, and you know that.
Look, I think again, I said at the start, I think he's in the great tier, but I will not have a conversation about him being in anywhere close to Alphonso Davies. He has no awards either when it comes to his time outside of MLS. None. Because he's been on an 8 game streak or whatever.
Well, and this is
Nine
this is
game
where you
streak.
this is where you give him his plaudits, right? Because MLS is the toughest league in the world. Everything else is just a farmers league compared. So considering the fact that he won everything here, now it's just a matter of time. And he also didn't win the most important trophy in America, the Supporters Shield. So
True. Fraud.
yeah, listen, I'm not disagreeing with you here, but why don't we move on to the top six? Because I've got another really good one here, and that is South American Player of the Year, Pity Martinez. We talked about it before that Esequiel Barco only had 2 players ahead of him in terms of most expensive fees in. One of the two, South American Player of the Year, Pity Martinez, who miraculously, after one of the most disappointing campaigns in MLS history, was sold for a profit. Why? Because he went to Saudi Arabia, who was sports washing the entire game, bringing as many people in as he could. He is now out and back in Argentina after, oh my God, after 3 years, he moves from Saudi Arabia to Argentina for a 15.5 million euro loss. They bought him for 16. They sold him for 520K. That is criminal.
That sums up the Saudi League for you.
Literally. He goes in with Atlanta. He has 11 goals and 14 assists in 54 games before moving to Al Nassr, where he has 13 goals and 10 assists in 58 games. He then returns back to River Plate, where he was purchased from Atlanta, and has done not much. Their season just started. I don't know how much I can emphasize this as being yet another garbage signing, and it being similar to a similar theme, because it seems like almost everyone that is tied to, what is that? Atalanta Unite. Oh, Atlanta United. That's right. All they do is have terrible garbage transfers.
I mean,
I
you literally put one in good, but
Nope,
sure.
nope, nope. Don't be fake news. Don't be fake news.
It's in the recording.
$16 million is the only thing that him being sold for a profit is the only thing that maybe might sway him into disappointing. But him coming in for, at the time, the most expensive fee of all time, and then not producing at a level even close to his who he was supposed to replace in Miguel Almiron, extremely disappointing. I'd put it in garbage, but if you want to tell me disappointing, that's great. He won't go higher than disappointing.
He isn't disappointing, and this is why.
Oh Lord.
He's in
Defend
disappointing, and
your home.
this is why. If you're good, I think it's fair to compare him against Barco. Barco was here for 4 years, right? So he had plenty of time to make things work. PT was only here for 1 year. So I think it's a little harsh to say that in 1 year's worth of substance that he is garbage. Because not to mention, the year he was here, Atlanta, I think, was under Frank de Boer at this time, possibly. I'm not
Oh, so now
100%
now it's
sure.
Frank de Boer's fault.
Hold on. Under Frank de Boer was third in the supporter shield. So I think even though his numbers weren't anything world beating, and he had a high bar set from Miguel Almiron, one, they sold him for a profit, and two, the team was very successful with him still in the team. So I think this is disappointing because the bar was high and he didn't hit the expectations, but I don't think it's garbage.
He had 9 assists in the 1 year he was here. I mean, his front three was Josef Martinez, Esequiel Barco, and himself. Like, I don't know. I think that's just kind of silly.
I mean, you called Barco garbage, so he's worked half of his other
That
attack is
front that
garbage.
front three was worth like $50 million at one point.
Yeah,
And they couldn't figure it out. Like that is garbage.
it's not garbage.
It is. But I
It's
will I
disappointing.
will I will compromise with you and let the fans tell you that you're out of your mind because that was a garbage signing. And the fact and again, and here's the thing, we're talking about what does it look like for the league when he comes in, South American Player of the Year, we're supposed to buy him for, 15 and flip him for 30 into Europe. And he gets sold for a $1 million profit to the Saudi Pro League, where any other league would have probably paid you less than what you paid for him. That's not good. That's garbage.
It's not garbage.
This is
It wasn't
why.
garbage when NYC flipped Pereira for a profit to the same like general area in the world.
Oh, so now we're just lumping all general areas together and saying that's terrible. No,
Listen, we agreed on
yeah, Gabby.
disappointing. It's
When
fine.
when Gabby Pereira can be called South American Player of the Year, Gabby Pereira, and come in with the expectations of South American Player of the Year, Pity Martinez did, we can have that conversation.
Don't rule it out. It could still happen.
No, ridiculous. If we're gonna put him there, we're gonna put him at the lowest of the low.
Put them wherever you want, wherever your little heart desires.
Well, we're at the top five now. Technically, Pity Martinez was top five, tied with this next guy. So remember that too. Top five in, top five out. Not top five goal producer, but whatever. The next one is going to be more of a prediction than anything. It's Djordje Petrovic over to Chelsea, 16 million euros after New England brought him in. He had a very good run on way to being one of the better goalkeepers in New England's short-ish history. Up there with Matt Turner, Matt Reese. I think they need to change his name to Matt Petrovic just to keep the vibes. But they flipped him for a 15 million euro profit. Once again, if you need to worry about if England has too much money, don't fret. They do not. They've got tons of it. Serbian international, currently playing in France with Strasbourg, who are relatively mid. Is that right?
Think so. I think they're about mid-table.
Yeah. Where are
It's the
we?
Chelsea B team.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's exactly where they are. They're mid. Um, I'll leave it to you. It's your start.
I think it's disappointing because so if he got a lot of game time last year, he actually has a lot of minutes played with Chelsea. He has 3,300 minutes played with Chelsea. When he was in goal, I felt like he was doing better than his stats say, but he had a minus 6.6 PSXG plus minus, which is really bad for those. If you're listening from England and you haven't heard us talk about this stat a million times over, minus 6.6 is terrible. He's got a 67% save percentage. I don't think there's a decent chance we never see him play for Chelsea again. I think he gets probably sold on at this point. But from a league perspective, 16 million for a goalkeeper, I think he's far and away the most expensive goalkeeper that we've gotten out of this league. So I'm gonna go with disappointing because I think the move did not pan out in terms of getting more eyes on MLS and getting MLS more reputation from the players that we're producing out. But we got a really fat fee from it that I don't think we'll probably see for a little bit from a goalkeeper.
Yeah, I would go good here. But I'm okay with disappointing as well because we talked about the Chelsea death pipeline of loanees who are going to eventually or never play for them again, like you mentioned. And he was disappointing last year when Chelsea asked him to step in. I don't disagree with that either. Yeah, when he played 23 times in the Prem last year. That's crazy. I didn't even think about that. Really, he
He played a
played,
lot.
yeah, he played more than that. He played 31 because he had FA Cup and EFL Cup. Um, he only had 5 clean sheets in the Prem. You can see the 38 goals. And I'm not saying keeping clean sheets in the Prem is easy, but um, again, when you are repping the league, oh, we got this guy from MLS, what can he do? Well, he had a couple of good saves and he didn't. Clearly the PSXG plus minus says that he should have saved more than he did. And there's a reason he's no longer the starter or the backup, and he's been sent out in loan army. Does that hurt, or does the fact that he reset the goalkeeper market in terms of outgoing transfers, which has more of an impact? And honestly, again, especially with Chelsea fans who have like Chelsea fans are the TikTok brain of the football world. They go through so many players so quickly and managers that they don't even remember who the last one they played were. So it is not super heartbreaking that he is going to be moved on because nobody's going to remember him. And then when he moves on and does well in other places, maybe that success pans out. But him resetting the goalkeeper market, I think was big, and I would put him in. I'd put him good or disappointing, but I think there are more good that came out of that than disappointing. So I'll let you pick.
We can put it in one and then we'll shift it to make sure we have a bell curve.
Yeah, that's cool with me. All right, the next one. Jordan Morris is back up at the 2026 World Cup. Ricardo Pepi, 16.36 million euros on his way overseas to Augsburg, where it did not very much pan out. And now he is having great success at PSV Eindhoven after winning lots of things over at PSV, including the Dutch Championship and the Dutch Super Cup double. He's won 2 Nations Leagues as well as a couple of USL Cups, nothing in MLS. Shocker, FC Dallas, bum. Um, 5 goals in 9 appearances, has made some pretty good appearances for the national team, straight from North Texas SC up to FC Dallas, sold for that huge fee. And then actually, Augsburg took a pretty big loss on him, 5 million or so euros. And now he is tying or tearing it up, excuse me, at PSV. For me, this is a great move. I think the youth prospect through MLS and then tie that into his, I'm going to use the term tenacity. I think that might be the wrong term, but that's what I'm going to use to get through the hardships at Augsburg and going on loan and then finding a good home in the Eredivisie to then be very successful, get himself back in the national team and performing as decently as a national team striker can perform. I think that is a really great sign for what we can produce. Look, here's a guy came straight from our academy system, moved him all the way up the ranks, now over in Europe doing good things, winning titles, and contributing to those titles, not just sitting on the bench watching them do it. I think this is a great outgoing, impactful transfer
I am leaning on the edge of good for this one.
because
Because I think for
because
one,
you're a hater.
hold on, slow your roll. Because I think the Augsburg move might have arguably been one of the worst moves out like ever. It was terrible. He didn't even. I mean, I know he didn't get a ton of chances, but he couldn't even score a goal for them. Not one. I mean, he did only have
Played
500 minutes.
500 minutes. Yeah. What do you?
Okay, but still, like, look what he's doing now with short minutes in PSV. He couldn't score one goal for Augsburg. It was a huge fee that they brought him in for, from an academy kid. I feel like it was a bad look when he was at Augsburg. It was like, all right, well, here's someone who's supposed to be up and coming youngster from MLS, where he's just coming off a strong season. He goes over to Germany, he can't even get in the team, and when he doesn't do anything. I think that was a bad look. But what I think you made a really good point on is the, tenacity to be able to rebound from that. That loan move to Groningen, I think, was huge in terms of getting some confidence back and finding a new home in PSV, where he's been great. The only thing that makes me hesitant is the fact that he kind of just doesn't play for PSV. Like he's been fantastic when he does get to play, but he's been there since the 23-24 season, which I guess was last year. Last year and this year combined, less than 900 minutes. Like he's fantastic when he plays, but he just doesn't play. He doesn't. So I think I'd be willing to go low grade if we needed it for the bell curve, but I think he's more so on the good scale.
Your arguments are noted, and I don't think they're necessarily wrong. What I so it's tough, right? For me, I will go high good or low great. We're probably gonna have a couple more greats here, so I'll go high good, and the reasoning being outside of your very fair points. When he was playing for Groningen, they got relegated. They only won 4 times. So yeah, he was scoring a bunch, but they weren't winning. So it's not like he came in and saved them and kept them from like he just came in and played really well. But yeah, if you're not playing, I can definitely understand that mindset as well. I'm good with it.
Okay.
I'm good with it. So we'll go with good. Next up, the star of the show in the not Europa, in the Champions League is Aston Villa's John Duran, who was bought for 16.64 million euros. And where was he? He was at the Chicago Fire because that's what they do.
Kind of.
Yeah, yeah. What he was at the Chicago Fire for 34 seconds. Okay, cool.
Pretty much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he signed for Chicago in 2022, January 2022, for 1.7 million euros, and then approximately 1 year later, 1 year and a couple days, he was sold over to Aston Villa for a $15 million profit. He's played 13 times for the Colombian national team. He scored 8 goals and 6 assists in 28 games for Chicago, including one in the Open Cup. He played a total of 1,400 minutes for Chicago, before being sold for $16 million, which I think is beautiful and wonderful and everything that I need in my life. He's got 2 goals in 3 Champions League matches this season, 4 goals in the Premier League so far. But once again, another guy who has only played for his European team like less than 1,000 minutes, give or take.
Yeah.
Um, I'll hear you out here.
It's a tricky one because I feel like it feels so similar to Pepe. Like so similar. The only thing that would make me be okay with him and great is he doesn't have the failed Augsburg move that Pepe had. Plus, Duran's doing it in a tougher league than the Eredivisie, which is a good league, but not Premier League level. What I think offsets that too, and kind of puts the conversation maybe more into the good category, is there's no way anybody at all thinks of John Duran as a Chicago MLS product. Because, like you said, it was basically like he was on his flight to Europe and he had like a long layover in Chicago. That's basically it. Like he barely played for Chicago. They brought him in for a year. He played less than 1,400 minutes and then he hopped on a plane to Aston Villa. So I am torn. I'm between the lowest of great and kind of putting him in a similar boat to Pepe. I feel like I'm leaning towards Pepi range. So I'm leaning towards high good.
I'm going to disagree with you here. I'm going to go with low great. And that's because his success in the most watched international competition in the world has drawn enough eyes where even if people didn't know about him, they know now that because they're not going, oh my God, look at this guy that we got from uh, Envigado in Colombia. No, they're saying, okay, where did this guy come from? He came from MLS. Yeah, he's not an MLS Academy product, but I mean, every time he does something, he goes, everybody's on there going, yep, MLS makes the world takes. MLS makes the world takes, and that's putting enough eyes on there to be like, yep, that's probably a pretty good what a litmus test for like where we're at. Finding these young guys, yes, he wasn't there a ton. There's a reason why I don't have him as the best of all time, even though he's tearing it up in a very almost as good as the CONCACAF Champions League International Tournament. Um, but I would say that his recent success, and maybe this is recency bias, but he's only been playing since 2019, so you know, quiet down. The the recent success both in the Prem, the Champions League, and the level of goals that he's scoring too. I mean, the screamers that he's scoring, these wonder goals that he's scoring. Every time it goes in, this guy's name gets more familiarity, and it drives back to MLS and Chicago Fire. And I've heard that there's like a clause that every time his name gets searched online, Chicago Fire add one more G to Greg's name. So we're gonna have like infinity G, and it's going to be great. And you know, the more G's he has, the more power he has. It's like the Infinity Stones. So I can't
Collecting
wait,
G's like the Infinity Stones.
dude. I can't wait for Greg Berhalter to be in MLS. I need this in my life.
Yeah,
Um,
honestly, it's great. I,
yeah.
I have I have two things I want to say based off of what you had said. So quick
Sure.
things, and then you can pick up. But one, I think you're giving people in England way too much credit to think that they will actually do proper research on where John Duran comes
Wrong.
from.
Oh, wrong.
I,
Not people in England. Not people in England. American Euro snobs.
I think same thing. I think the American Euro snobs will not even put the time into looking up where he's from. I
No, they
think they're
have
gonna.
to.
I
They would
think they're
have
gonna
to.
say no, no, no. I think they're gonna say he's Colombian. He came from Colombia, and then I think they're gonna leave it at that. I think that that's the amount that they're gonna do. What I will say though, I think it's a great point to mention his success in the Champions League. Not to mention one of those goals was a game winner against Bayern Munich. So I am on board with you with it being in low grade. I think that was a good point. But I do think you're giving the American Euro snobs too much credit. I don't think they will do that level of research.
We hate you. We hate you. We hate you.
I'm
Um,
adding a new group to send hatred towards the pod.
yeah.
Even
That's
though,
right.
you know,
We get enough. We get enough of that already.
I mean I'm just saying I've been pretty bang on about my Middlesbrough take, but you know, whatever.
Well, it's really good, right? Because since I've muted all the nerds and stopped like interacting with them, we don't get any of it. So I just get to talk with my friends about a league that I like.
That's me.
Speaking of friends, here is one who probably doesn't have too many left since he's now left for back to Brazil, and it's Thiago Almada. He left this summer for 19.5 million euros, a not insignificant profit. Now, he is the most expensive incoming transfer, well, joint with South American Player of the Year, Pity Martinez, but he was sold for a legitimate profit, 5 million euros, give or take. And he went back to Brazil after being really solid for Atlanta, one of the guys that we thought they were going to build around for quite a while. Now playing in the Libertadores, I believe that he plays in the final or just played in the final relatively recently. Let me see. He's got 2 goals in there so far. No, they haven't played yet. So on their way, but he's got 2 goals. He got a goal in the semifinals and a goal in the quarterfinals against Sao Paulo and Peñarol. But he had 26 goals, 24 assists, and 83 appearances for an Atlanta side that was just brutally not good, by the way. Like, just very not good in his time here. If they had players around him, he would have been much better, I'm sure.
Brutally not good. They were a playoff team last year.
Playoffs. We don't talk about playoffs
We
here.
won. We took a game off the champions.
Oh, it's single game. So did we. Red Bull Moon. What?
You didn't take it. They didn't win the championship yet this year. What do you have the
this year.
script?
Get out of here. I do actually. And you're right, we didn't take it off the champions because we're going to be the champions. Up the Metro. But no, his 2023 year up in MVP level conversations, 11 goals, 16 assists in 31 games. It is your team, so I will send it over to you. Where do you put him?
I think if you're just looking at the transfer market news, I think you're like there's parts of it that are missing. So it's there's a lot there's other factors into his price that haven't been hit yet just because it's so recent. But I believe so. I'm reading up on an article right now by Doug Roberson, he's one of the Atlanta reporters.
Very good.
Um, yes,
Yeah.
Atlanta got 21 million as a base fee, I believe. That could increase up to 30 million if incentives are met. And for reference, Almiron, who we'll talk about shortly, his base fee was 19 million. So base fee wise, it was a record. It was the most expensive export. He just has to hit some incentives, and he will pass Almiron and be the most expensive, which is what I think many of us were expecting him to be once we saw what he was able to do last season. As soon as we saw that, I'm pretty sure 95% of people were like, yeah, this guy's going to go for the most expensive fee ever from this league. And I still think that will be the case. The other thing of context I wanted to give is if you look at it, you're like, oh, he moved to Brazil. That's kind of disappointing. I believe it's just a temporary thing
Hmm.
because he goes to Botafogo, who owns both Lyon and Crystal Palace. So
Yes.
it's most likely that he's going to move to one of those teams shortly after going to Brazil. So on paper, it looks weird and it looks bad, but I do think it's going to be a transfer record once the incentives are hit. And he's going to get a move to either Crystal Palace or Lyon, most likely, and both of those will be good moves for him. I think it goes in the great tier. I think it's going to have a really good impact. I think he's a really, really, really good player. Most expensive, I think he'll be by the end of it. Most expensive transfer fee. And I feel like that alone is gonna at least put the conversation in good. But I think he'll be in great.
No, I agree with you. There is this little tiny part that when he was a part of Atlanta United, he did this thing called win the World Cup.
That too.
Just kind of small little piece there that you didn't mention with this guy Lionel Messi. I don't know if you ever heard of him. He's kind of one of the better players in the game this year.
Not as good as
Um,
Thiago Almada, but
no, like I said, he just you know having a world like an active player on a World Cup winning team instantly is great. So his level for the league just there alone is great. Then sending him off, and yes, like you mentioned with Botafogo, it is just a short term thing because he's either going to France or England. My guess is France.
I would think
Um,
so too.
yeah, because Palace they don't do any of that fancy nonsense. It's Eze, it has
No.
Yannick Bolasie, and then it's straight dice ball. So get that fancy nonsense out of here. You can go to France with that nonsense. Yeah, like I said, the profit that they're going to make on him, the impact that he had while he was here with the World Cup, and then what he's going to be able to do when he moves over, all very very good stuff. And even if he goes and wins stuff in Libertadores as he's playing well, raises the stock in South America as well. I'm good with great here.
Yeah.
I got to change my phrasing there. I'm good with great is weird. Yes, let's go with the last one. You were alluding to it a little bit before. You did get the name wrong though. It does start with an M. The most impactful and expensive at the end of incentives. It does start with an M. His name is Matthias Jorgensen, a Red Bull European export.
He just hasn't hit the incentives yet. It's
Yeah,
coming.
it's coming. Yeah. No, Miguel Almiron, the Newcastle United winger. He left for 24 million euros way back in 2019 after being bought for 7.5 from Lanús. He has played 60 times for the Paraguayan national team with 7 goals, and his time in Europe has been okay. He's had one season with 11 goals, 2 assists in 2023-24 and has kind of not gotten off the mark much since then. I am not so sure how I feel about this. I think this is
I can go
just
first. I feel pretty
I
sure about it.
I think this is good. If you asked me in 20 when he left in 2019, if you asked me in 2021 what this is elite, right? This is great goat tier, whatever you want to call it. He's kind of just been meh and has not really broken out as like a, oh man, this is an MLS guy who's lighting it up. It took him what 4 or 5 years before he even got like really really going. I mean, he had a Premier League in 2020 where he played over 3,000 minutes. He had 6 goal contributions. It took him 4 years to get double digit goal contributions, and he started losing minutes a ton until he got there. I'm just not like, I don't know. I just feel like he in back in the day, yeah, you know, did a ton of it. But him and Alphonso Davies were sold at the same time. Alphonso Davies, we went down his list and we talked about him. Miguel Almiron hasn't even come close. And if you compare him to what he's done comparative to others in the great category, I don't think he matches a lot of those guys either in terms of like big influential draw eyes to this league sort of stuff, right? Taty Castellanos tearing it up in Italy right now. John Duran tearing it up in the Champions League. Miguel Almiron, outside of one season in the last 6, has not been that guy. I would put him in good.
I think he's in great. I think he's in great because
You're a homer.
he set the trend. Like he that I think you're underplaying how big that sale was at the time. Like that was huge. It was far and away the most expensive. And I feel like only in recent years has anything even like started to become close. And really it's only been with Almada. Like I don't think Duran is really that close either to getting to Almiron's price. Almiron was far and away going to be the most expensive until Almada came around. And yes, his numbers haven't been great in Europe. Like I I don't watch a lot of Newcastle. I like to think that he continues to get minutes because he plays the role that he's being asked to play well. But I mean, he's gotten almost 12 and a half thousand minutes for a team that's, competitively in Europe now. Like that strong season he had got Newcastle to the Champions League. I don't have his stats up right now, but I would imagine he has appearances in that Champions League as well. I mean, that guy enough to put John Duran in, great, because he played in the Champions League and scored.
He
But
has six appearances and a goal in the Champions League of 2023-24. And that goal came against um, a really bad PSG side.
okay, I mean, he still scored against PSG.
Back
I could
when
say the same thing about Bayern. Like
back,
okay, John Duran scored against the Bayern team that couldn't win the Bundesliga.
yeah, but this was also back when the Champions League meant something. Group stages, back when it was legit.
Almiron needs to be in great. He needs to be in great. I understand that his numbers aren't great, but regardless, the guy has played 13,000 minutes or 12,500 minutes for Newcastle for a reason. It's not because they don't have the money to bring in a replacement. They certainly do.
I want to fight you on this.
No, you don't.
I do, because I think you're wrong. However, I won't because it's getting late. I need to see Atlanta lose tonight with you, and we need to end this so that people stop getting worried. But I will say he will be the bottom of that tier because I don't. Again, maybe it's recency bias. Maybe I'm being, if I'm looking back reflectively and thinking, holistically, yeah, maybe that's me being recency bias. But um,
It's totally recency bias. If you think he's below John Duran, you're totally being swayed by recency bias.
nobody asked you.
Duran's got like 3 starts for Aston Villa across 3 seasons, and you're ready to throw him above Miguel Almiron.
Yeah, because guess what? This is my podcast. I do what I want. Shut up. Let us know what you guys think in the comments. Thanks so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you follow us wherever you get your podcasts. The next time we go live, Next episode will probably be a recap of the first round or a preview of the second round, whatever kind of comes up to that. And make sure you follow us on social media. We've got Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok. We are super, super active on there. We're getting a lot of more followers and we're posting a lot more. So make sure you follow us over there and interact with us and share your thoughts. Let us know what you think about where our placement is so that we can tell you why you're either right if you agree with me or if you are wrong if you agree with Connor. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. We hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time on the next episode of the Designated Players and MLS podcast. See ya.